Hello. The title of this video is Materialism and Unity. Materialism and Unity. Now, unity, what is unity? Unity basically means the ability or the willingness to act for a group of people, to act as one. The ability or willingness for a group of people to act as one. To act in the same direction with mutual help and support, and often with the necessity for an individual in that group to make a personal sacrifice. Now, what would be the opposite of unity? Disunity, atomization, selfishness, self-interest only, betrayal at the first opportunity, when one feels he can benefit from the betrayal. And, well, you can see a lot of these things around these days, very easily and very commonly. Now, why we need unity? What's good about unity? Why bother? Well, I don't think I'm going to answer this question. I'm quite sure that for the people who would watch my videos, the the answer to such a question is self-evident, and it would just be a waste of time to try to dissect it here. Okay. Now, a group of people unite on common goals for the achievement of common goals. So, a family unites for the achievement of the common goal of, say, building a home and raising the children and so on. People setting up business unite for the accomplishment of the common goal of a success of that business, which will be or should be their success together should also mean success for each of them individually. Well, these are common examples, and I think they're nothing new. And the common goals of a culture, a society, a civilization are its ideals. That's what holds it together, gives it face, gives it direction, gives it inner strength, and defines it, and so on. The shared ideals. It's shared ideals. Now, mind you, when I use the term ideals here, I use it in a very specific sense. And if you want to understand my videos, if you want to understand well and correctly what I'm trying to say here, I urge you to watch my previous videos where I make the effort, take the time and make the effort to define ideals. To define ideals in the sense that I am using the term in this video, and use the term throughout all my videos, past and future. I especially urge you to watch my video entitled, my earlier video entitled Civilization and Ideals. Civilization and Ideals, in which I define exactly what ideals I'm talking about, what I mean by ideals. And a complementary definition you can also find in a sequel to that video entitled A Civilization and Ideals, Part 2. The Civilization and Ideals 2. That's right. So the common goals on which a civilization unites are its ideals. The accomplishment of its ideals, or an effort at the accomplishment of its ideals, moving closer to those ideals. That is the common goal of a civilization. And the shared values and ways which these shared ideals necessarily bring with them as the route to the accomplishment of the ideals, to moving closer to the accomplishment of these ideals, and so forth. Let's take the ideal of equality before God. Equality before God, which often tends to translate to the concept of equality before the law. Equality before law. Which, by the way, is not, or historically has not been, a matter of course. It's not that it's something, you know, that you have any place, any time. No. But that would be a digression that I do not want to make. So see if you have a culture espousing the ideal of equality before the law, then you know, if it becomes a shared ideal of that culture or civilization, it will, as a whole, recognize it, respect it, and enforce it. It will translate into law and so forth. And it will define that culture or society. It will be one of the attributes, one of the features by which you can recognize it and tell it from other civilizations or cultures that do not have that ideal. You take a society based on a caste system, for example, like ancient India, or society with the institution of slavery. Well, by the way, I can hear some nitpickers going, well, but you had Christian societies with slavery in them. I mean, yeah. Look, I'm not a defender of Christianity here. I'm talking about shared ideals and how they define a civilization. That is all. That's all. Okay? So, anyway, say you have these two different cultures, civilizations. One is based on the ideal of equality before the law, and the other one is not. Right? Now, I'm not saying whether one must necessarily be superior to the other here and so on. I'm simply stating that they are not compatible. They're not compatible. They're not on the, excuse me, they're not on the same page. They are on a different path, different trajectory, each going in a different direction. And for the two to unite, one of those ideals would have to win over the other, naturally. Naturally. As you cannot have one culture, a single society, in which both equality and inequality before the law is formalized, written into its statutes and so forth, and where slavery is both legal and illegal at the same time. You can see it ain't quite possible, right? So to have unity, on the level of civilization and culture, you need shared ideals. Shared ideals. Now, such ideals that hold a civilization together give it inner strength, impetus, cohesion, confidence. Confidence, and just in terms of knowing where you're going and believing you're on the right path and so forth. Such ideals, they evolve through time. They can devolve just as well. They can, be replaced with a better, a superior set of ideals, or with a set of lower, inferior ideals, however you want to measure it. They can be upgraded or downgraded or degraded. And one might say, we live in modern times and we have technology and we are modern, sophisticated society and people, and we have the laws, and the return of such a thing as slavery, something so primitive and Middle Ages, and what are you talking about? It can never come back. We have the laws against it. We are modern, sophisticated, advanced people. I won't bother to comment on the word modern. I consider it an empty word, and it's so prevalent and used for an empty explanation or a weak defense of so much that I may actually, devote a future video just to that bloody word. I'd love to. But laws change. They can change. They can change, and they do change. They get repealed and replaced and so forth. And and no law actually will survive without real, genuine support of the people. Many people. The majority. Poor and weak, rich and wealthy. If it doesn't have the real, heartfelt support coming from the shared ideals they espouse, it will not survive. It may survive for some time in letter, but not in fact. Look, law is in part derived from lex or lexis, meaning a word or the word. And I'm afraid that the law is no more reliable than the word given. Excuse me. Now, the only real ideal in materialism, besides, any other ideals it may pretend to have, make PR appearance of having, etc. The only real ideal in materialism is utter selfishness and self-interest only. And you are in ruthless competition with others for the greatest achievement of selfish goals. Now, such an ideal, if it can be called that, is, by its very nature, disuniting, not uniting. Workers of the world unite used to be the famous communist motto. Well, it won't happen again anytime soon. And not only with workers. Because in materialism, and again, mind you, I use the term materialism here in a very specific sense. So if you want to understand my videos, please go to my previous video entitled Materialism and Ideals. Materialism and Ideals, in which I define the term materialism very precisely. So, in materialism, the final accomplished stage of materialism that we happen to live in, there is selfishness and self-interestedness, self-interestedness only. And in the absence of shared ideals, such as fairness and justice, respect for truth, love your fellow man or neighbor, as Buddha taught, and help them, and so on. Well, whatever you say and however large you say, others automatically assume that you do so for your own benefit only. And you just pretend to have a noble cause and so on. It's all just PR, and it is so understood. And nobody trusts anybody. Nobody believes that anybody means anything, if you know what I mean. And so, how to unite? There is no basis for it. I mean, on the level of civilization or culture, of course. There is no basis for it. There are no shared ideals. The only shared ideal that is out there, if it can be called that, is utterly disuniting. And since there are no shared ideals to unite, culture, civilization, it has no longer, as a culture or civilization, any common goals, because its common goals are its ideals. Workers of the world unite. Well, when communism first saw the light of day, it could derive its impetus, its driving force, and collective action the ability for collective action, and so on, from some remaining Christian heritage, which was still somewhat alive in the form of people's basic ideas and attitudes that inform them, and so forth. Even though Christianity as such in the West was pretty much dead by then already. And again, I'm not a defender of Christianity, but the then society derived many of its ideals from it, so it needs to be mentioned. And so Christianity was dead already in the West pretty much by then. I mean, it was dead in a sense of having a real, tangible effect upon society. And this is the only way to measure the value of any religious or idealistic philosophy. You know, that is, does it make society better by making the individuals comprising it better? By making the individual, a sufficient number of them and so forth, a little more honest, a little more decent, a little less selfish, a little more courageous, a little more humble, and so on. Well, nowadays, even this heritage is gone. It has been replaced with materialism. Thanks for watching.